Hey, LinkedIn, and welcome to Business Unusual. This is a live show where we talk about the changing nature of work. I'm Susie Jackson. I'm a news editor at LinkedIn, coming to you today to have a conversation with CEOs in the online grocery industry about how COVID-19 is changing the way we eat. Before we get to that main story, I want to look at some of the other stories that LinkedIn members are talking about today, August 24th. First up, return to office plans are grinding to a halt. Many companies hope to bring employees back after the upcoming Labor Day holiday, but few will actually follow through. Wall Street Journal citing a survey of major companies that collectively employ more than 2.5 million people in the US. 57% have postponed their back to office plans because of increased cases of coronavirus. And another story that we're tracking today, TikTok will fight President Trump's order to divest its US operations. ByteDance, the maker of the popular video app, will sue the Trump administration, saying it tried to insert itself into negotiations between private businesses. For more stories like that, check out the LinkedIn News module. It's to the right of your newsfeed if you're on your desktop, or if you're on mobile, click into the search box for those stories and more. That brings us to our poll question today from the LinkedIn News team. We want to know, have you used a meal kit delivery service because of the pandemic? Let us know how you feel. You could say, yes, you're already a subscriber, no, or I'm thinking about it, something else. Drop your comments and your answers in the stream. We're going to get to as many of those results as we can at the end of the show. That brings us to our main story today. Pandemic-induced lockdowns, quarantines, and fear introduced millions of new households to meal kits and online grocery shopping, and a lot of those new customers are sticking around. A recent survey puts June online grocery sales in the US at $7.2 billion. That's up from a record high of $4 billion in March as the pandemic took hold in the US. This new normal we're living through is also a boon for meal kit delivery companies. Online meal kit sales in April more than doubled from a year before, according to the firm Earnest Research. Other food businesses have noticed this uptick. Traditional grocery stores are expanding their online offerings, and even restaurants are getting into the meal kit delivery game. We're going to welcome two CEOs in the online grocery business to talk us through what these changes mean for their businesses and for us as consumers. But first, I want to hear from you. It's our poll question today. Have you gotten into the meal kit game during the pandemic? Has your online grocery shopping increased? I want to know, how has this crisis changed your behavior around food, the way you're buying, the way you're consuming, the way you're cooking at home? Let me know. Talk to me and each other in the comments. We'll get to as many of your thoughts as we can on the show today. And with that, I want to welcome my two CEOs out. Rachel Drori is the founder and CEO of Daily Harvest, and Nick Green is the co-founder and CEO of Thrive Market. Welcome to Business Unusual.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Great. Nick, I want to start with you. What were the early signs from your customers that there was about to be a surge in demand? Was it enough for you to prepare, and how have you worked back to a new normal?
Sure. Yeah. And just to give a little bit of a backdrop, we're not a meal kit company. We do online grocery though. So what Thrive Market is a wholesale buying club for organic and natural products. We basically carry the best selling products that you find in a health food retailer like a Whole Foods, but they're all at wholesale prices through an annual membership. So we got almost 1 million members on the platform. We launched in 2015. There's been a huge trend since then towards online grocery shopping, and obviously accelerated during COVID-19. The first signs for us, honestly, was the spike in hand sanitizer and toilet paper, followed quickly by the other bunker building staples like canned food. It was a pretty crazy kind of first few weeks back at the end of February, early March. We saw, 6 months supply of toilet paper go out in 3 or 4 days. Same kind of thing on the hand sanitizer front. So the way I've described the waves of demand for our business has been sort of in 2 stages. The first was that preparatory phase where people were really focused on key parts of the catalog that they were worried about shortages on. And then the second was really once we got into the lockdowns that you mentioned, Susie, where people have been trying to replicate their normal shopping behavior, but doing it all online. So that's been much more broad-based across our catalog, not quite as extreme, but certainly still a challenge for us to scale up to from a supply chain standpoint, from a fulfillment standpoint, and then really just making sure we're doing it all safely.
Yeah, and do you feel like you've hit your stride again? Is the crisis period over in terms of how the business is responding, and you found a new normal?
I don't know if I describe it as a new normal. I hesitate to make any proclamations given how fast things are still changing, but I'm really proud of our team, and our business is still very entrepreneurial. We've scaled quite a bit, but we're still young. We still can move fast, and we were able to adjust pretty rapidly. So there were some really tough moments for sure. in March and April when we had significant issues with just supplier out of stocks. One of the biggest challenges for us was also scaling our fulfillment network. So we had to almost double the number of people we have in our fulfillment centers at a time, of course, when in-person work was increasingly a risk. So we were very, very focused on safety within our facilities, on taking already pretty significant safety protocols and just up-leveling them dramatically. We were way out ahead of the CDC on things like mask wearing and temperature checks and social distancing in our buildings. And then working really closely with our suppliers to make sure all the products coming in through them were safe. That was the biggest challenge. I would say we're through that. We're, of course, maintaining all of those protocols. There's still real disruption on the supply chain, to be completely honest. A lot of brands, when you're dealing with raw commodities, you might go through an entire season's worth of tomatoes, for example, and now there isn't great supply for the rest of this year. So that stuff's going to be an ongoing challenge, I think, through the remainder of the year. But things have definitely stabilized. We're shipping as fast as we ever have at this point. Our out of stock rates are nearly where they were pre-pandemic, and we feel like we've been able to adjust pretty well.
All right, great. So safety is clearly a paramount. A lot of supply chain issues you're working through as well. It's good to know that you have a moment to catch your breath at least. Rachel, I want to turn to you. We're going to get into some of the details of all of this from both of your businesses, but I want you to walk us through a little bit. What is Daily Harvest and what is your pandemic story?
Yeah, so we're also not a meal kit delivery business, but our business is about helping you stock your home with real, clean, delicious, and convenient food that's built on fruits and vegetables. Actual fruits and vegetables, not hyper-refined, not hyper-processed ones. And we leverage technology to meet the needs of modern customers. And we innovate and iterate and co-create with our customers to create things like flatbreads, bowls, smoothies, soups, lattes, snacks. And we just launched a new plant-based ice cream that we're really excited about. And you stock it all in your freezer and it's ready in minutes. So, when you think about the needs of customers at this moment in time, we've been checking a lot of boxes, which has been interesting and challenging, but also fortuitous.
Yeah, and you mentioned you launched a new product. Actually, I want to talk to you more about that. It seems like a wild time to be launching anything new. Is this something that came about in response to COVID? Was it a pre-existing plan that you were somehow managed to push through still? Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, so we actually have launched a few things over the past few months. Our entire launch strategies have had to change multiple times, but we launched new flatbreads about 2 weeks after social distancing orders were in place in New York, which was definitely an interesting experiment in agility. And a few weeks later, we launched our plant-based ice cream, which we call Scoops. And that was also, just trying to figure out all sorts of supply chain challenges. We manufacture our own food, so, we don't really rely on others, but just shipping and dry ice is like a continued challenge for us to source right now. There's shortage of CO2. I don't know how that happened. I think there's enough of it on the planet. So yeah, we've launched a lot over the past few months, and we haven't slowed down. Similar to Nick, we have a very entrepreneurial company, and we've been able to flex and be agile and kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah, a shortage of CO2 is not one I've heard yet in anyone's supply chain issues, so I'm interested in having to grapple with that.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us now, I want to welcome you to the stream. This is Business Unusual. We are talking about changes in online grocery industry today with CEOs Rachel Drori and Nick Green. I want to welcome Felix from Miami. Welcome to the program today. Jamie from Tennessee, Ari watching from California, Bridget from Nevada, and Larry from St. Louis. Thank you for joining us. Also, a couple of comments. Martha says she's been ordering from surrounding restaurants a lot. She also says she loves Thrive, so big ups to you, Nick. Dolores says, I'm cooking more at home and trying to be more healthy, eating out less. So we've got some folks in the stream who are using some of your services or changing the way that they are eating during the pandemic. And Nick, I want to talk to you for a moment. You actually turned off the ability for people to order online for periods of time. That sounds like a wild proposition outside of COVID times, but what was response like that? What was response to that from people when they were at a time where they have increased need, but also increased choices?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. That's an outcome I never would have anticipated ever in the business prior to COVID-19. The truth is this has been a true moment for our mission. Our mission as a business is to make healthy living accessible to anybody. And we do that with our pricing, with our healthy food, and then by shipping it anywhere in the country. And of course, when you're online, you could be open 24/7, which we have been for the last 5 years since we launched. What happened during that first wave, and then especially as the second wave started to come in, is we had so much demand, so many orders coming in, we literally could not get them out the door as fast as they were coming in. And most importantly, we couldn't scale up to meet that in a way that was safe without reducing store hours. So we never shut down the site entirely. What we did do is we reduced the time windows that people could shop. And what we really focused on during that entire period was just communicating super transparently with our members about the decisions that we were making, about what shipping times were, about what products we were out of stock on, when they were going to come back in. And we did that with the store hours. We basically sent a letter out to the community explaining why we were doing it. We created a bunch of communication streams on our blog, live through notifications to our members to make sure that they could shop when they needed it. And then we also allowed people that were in at-risk groups, whether they were in a hard-hit area from the pandemic, or they were senior citizens, or they were healthcare workers, to bypass the store hours so they could still get in. So, rationing is never something you want to do as a business, but from a mission standpoint, we knew we had to be able to stay standing for our members, and that was the best way to do it. The other thing that we really did was try to make sure we were reaching people that needed our services that maybe weren't members. So we've always given away a free membership for every paid member on the site. And then we actually let our paid members donate a portion of their savings at checkout to the shopping budgets of those Gives members. What we did during the pandemic, and what we're still doing, is putting all of that funding towards a COVID-19 relief fund. And I actually, as CEO, donated my salary for the remainder of the year to it. About a month ago, we surpassed $1 million total raised. So even though we had the store hours reduced, we were also bringing in thousands more people who may not have been members before, really needed us at the time, and were being directly affected by COVID, and then funding their budgets. So we reacted from our mission. It wasn't easy, but it was really clear decisions on how do we get essential products to people the fastest and best way we can, and especially to those who need it most.
So staying really close to your mission, even though the way that has looked recently is no one could have predicted that. I feel like this also requires you having a really great relationship with customers. Rachel, I know that the customers are really passionate about your brand as well. Can you tell us anything about what it's been like to work with them through this kind of together as supply chains were shifting and things have been really kind of wacky?
Yeah, so similarly, going back to our mission is we take care of food so food can take care of you. And at a time of so much need, we really had to flex up in so many ways to be able to live our mission. And our customers were very understanding. We were just incredibly transparent, and appealed to we had this great rapport with them previous to COVID, and as supply chain challenges crept up, we were able to use transparency as a way to continue to actually build that trust. So, while we were launching new things, there were still, as I mentioned, the dry ice shortage was quite an issue. It actually continues to be an issue. But just being completely honest with customers and letting them know as much granularity as possible when their stuff is coming, when it's not coming, how we make it up to people if they're counting on our food has been a huge part of it. And then the other thing that we did during this period was we donated, hundreds of thousands of meals to people, so that to people in need who were food insecure or continue to be food insecure. Also, we continue to provide food to people on the front line, which adds to the community. Our community really is interested in knowing how else we are flexing our muscles and using the food that we have and the delivery of abilities that we have to help the greater good.
That's great. So again, sticking with the mission, talking to customers, working together through uncertain times. I want to switch gears a little bit and into talking about trends in online grocery generally. Nick, this one's for you. The internet hadn't completely upended the online grocery business pre-COVID. Do you think that's happening now? Is COVID accelerating it? And what do you see on the ground?
Yeah, that's a great question. Certainly the question of the year, and all of a sudden everybody's focused on what's happening online grocery. What I would tell you is that the trend has been very robust, very fast for the last 5 years since we started. Literally double digits every year, growing order of magnitude faster than traditional grocery. So I think it was just still at a subscale level where people weren't paying as much attention. The way we describe what happened during COVID-19 is the trend basically accelerated 5 years and 5 months. And so, what we're seeing is absolutely a moment of inflection. I think that it's a moment that is not going to go back to the old normal, certainly not anytime soon. And, if it had been a 2 or 3 week thing where people did 1 or 2 orders online, you might have, the people go back to their old habits. I think when you're doing it for months and months and people are seeing the convenience of ordering online, the transparency of ordering online, and the ability to get, in the case of Thrive Market, better products also at a better value, we're seeing higher engagement, higher retention, and expect to see actually stronger cohort performance, believe it or not, in members that are coming in during this time than we saw pre-COVID. So yes, I absolutely think it's an inflection moment for online grocery. I also think it's an inflection moment though for conscious consumption. Rachel mentioned this as well, and I think we've certainly seen it. Our members want to be part of a solution. They want to be part of a community. They want to know where their products and their food is coming from. And I think more and more consumers are becoming conscious that way. And I think when COVID-19 hit, at some level, everybody became a conscious consumer. Everyone all of a sudden is thinking about health. Everyone is thinking about the safety of their products. Everyone is thinking about where they come from. So, I think those brands and those platforms that are creating authentic communities, that are standing by really strong and clear values, and that can really be trusted by consumers, are going to be the winners. And so it's not just about shifting online. It's about shifting online towards those platforms that people feel they can trust. And that to us is our true innovation. Yes, we are online. That allows us to get to everyone. But the real innovation is having this platform where you can transparently see where your products come from, where everything hits the right standard, and where the business has the same values that you do.
So you're talking about both the business and consumers being more conscious of things. I have Oliver in the stream here who is underscoring that, saying people are more aware of what they eat and drink now, focusing on healthier alternatives. Rachel, I know that you're across the future of online grocery as well. Do you agree with Nick? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, we're seeing the exact same trends Nick is seeing. 3% of people bought food online previous to COVID, and I think that's about 45% now. So it's a huge acceleration in the trend. And now that people have experienced it, which was the barrier, we're seeing great retention, great customer loyalty, all of the things that there's been question about, like, is this here to stay? And all signs point to yes. So we feel really good about our position, but also the transition of consumers purchasing more food online. And we're seeing the same trends as far as people being more interested in health and wellness. There's so much that's out of control right now. So I think people are using this opportunity as one to, get your health and wellness in order, to spend more time, on yourself. But people are also homeschooling, and people are, I am homeschooling. I just had my first day of kindergarten for my son. It was terrible. But, people are just busier than ever before, even though they're not commuting. There's other things that have taken place. So we're also seeing that convenience is bubbling up as a big trend with customers.
I really feel for you on the first day of kindergarten. I hope the rest of the day goes better than the morning. Yeah. I have a question for each of you. Nick, maybe we'll start with you. We're talking about this moment of we need increased consciousness and convenience, but I think other grocery stores are trying to catch up. I see expanded offerings, maybe peak COVID, they weren't quite there, but now that things have settled a bit for the moment, how are you dealing with increased competition from, say, big grocers who are trying to up their online game?
I think it's great. Honestly, I think the more options that people have to shop online, and the more that trend will accelerate. We're talking about $1 trillion grocery market. I don't think there's any time soon where our biggest challenge is going to be, size of market or ability to eke out a place. What we're not seeing is those brick and mortar grocery stores, instantly becoming focused on conscious consumers. And that's where, for our business in particular, we feel we really stand out and are really unique. We're the largest platform, online or off, in the country that sells exclusively non-GMO food. We are tagging every product that we have on the site across 150 different metadata categories, so that our members can search by whatever filters they want, whether it be supporting BIPOC-owned brands or female-run businesses, or only keto products, or if they have a kindergartner who has a nut allergy, having peanut free, all with one click of a button. So I think that more and more grocery platforms for sure are going to shift online. That's going to create more choice. That's only going to be positive for the trend. And it's only going to be positive for getting people used to shopping and buying their groceries online. And again, the innovation that we're really focused on is less online. We've been doing online since 2014. That part we've solved. It's continuing to up-level the tools and the functionality and the content and the transparency and the quality of products that we provide to really be the platform for conscious consumers. And I think, when you look at our business, you look like at a Daily Harvest and some of the other real leaders online, that I think is where we're differentiating.
And we've got Melanie in the stream saying that she does a mix of prepared foods and fresh groceries, that she's tried Green Chef, Daily Harvest, and Epicure. So a customer here, you're saying there's no shortage of customers here. Everyone needs to eat. Rachel, what are you saying? Do you feel like you have a leg up because you've been in the strict online business this whole time?
Yeah. Not that we are direct to consumer. We've been that way since the beginning. But the fact that we co-create with our customers, we get our customers what they want when they want it, and then we've been at this quite some time. So thinking about convenience and how else we can make our the experience convenient, and how we can take care of our customers using the platform to really make things as to decrease the cognitive load required to shop and to find things that are healthy, to find things that are sustainable, to find things that are tasty, that meet your taste preferences, to make it as completely, as quick and mindless as possible, so that when you have that moment to eat, to take care of yourself, that you have what you need when you need it. So I don't think it's just about, the way in which you sell the food or that is delivered directly to customers. I think that there's just a lot more to it, and that's really where we're focused, and what we've experienced the customer really wanting and needing.
That's great. And I want to switch to behind the scenes for this question. Rachel, let's stick with you. I know that you have been working from home. People on your staff are working from home, but you also still have to test recipes and try out new things to keep moving the business along. Can you tell us, what does that look like? What are people in different states trying to cook the same thing looking like?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was truly interesting. We were shipping food to different states throughout the country, having people create recipes together but separate, and then taste them together. We were working completely asynchronously, but obviously using our incredibly sourced produce. And now that we are at a later stage, we have a unfortunately really large office in New York City that now we're fortunate enough to now have 6 people that are working there. So they have their own bathroom, they've got all the space in the world, and they each have their own kitchen, which has been really helpful. So we've come up with a way where we have this like central bar situation that we now use as our tasting room, and we leave the food there and everyone goes to taste it, and it works. It's a little silly when you zoom out and watch it happening, but it works, and we've been able to create some incredible things together, but waving at each other from different conference rooms or tasting food through Zoom.
So you're even building community within your own company, as well as doing it with your customers in these fun new ways. Nick, I have a question here from this stream from Andrea, who wants to know what are the most in-demand products you're seeing now that the pandemic has kind of peaked and crested, and who knows where we're going to go with it now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would go back to those waves of demand that I described earlier. Early on, it was canned beans, it was hand sanitizer, it was toilet paper. It was a lot of like cleaning and home products. Then it really shifted towards your staples. And I think people are looking right now for the products they can trust. In many cases, it's the brands that they know. So we definitely saw a flight to some of our bigger, more well-established brands. What's interesting for us, we also have our own brand, the Thrive Market brand, that is about 10% of our catalog, but over 30% of our sales. So for our membership community, that is the most trusted brand. So probably the biggest trend that we've seen on Thrive is that people are really going towards that Thrive Market brand, which has been challenging from a supply chain standpoint because we source all of that product directly. We work with co-packers and co-manufacturers. We do the same kind of R&D that Rachel was just describing. So that's definitely created challenges. But it's also been really great for us because it's been this opportunity to cement that relationship with our members and lean into the Thrive Market brand as that trusted go-to source. So I wouldn't say there's any real like different food trends for right now. I think most people are just wanting to do what they've done, but do it online and do it from home. And to the point made by a listener or a viewer earlier, I think everyone is just more focused on quality, more focused on safety, more focused on sourcing. And then I do think people are more conscious and more socially conscious, at a time when as a country, we're witnessing, the issues around the way the school shutdowns are affecting different people differently, the way the economy is affecting people differently, the issues of racial injustice. I think people are also really thinking about that. So we're seeing a lot of people wanting to know the backgrounds of the brands that they're buying from, and be more conscious of issues also like climate change, interestingly enough. So we ship all of our products by carbon neutral shipping. We go from zero waste fulfillment centers. We spent 2 years getting all of our fulfillment centers to be zero waste. And it's interesting that at a moment when people are also focused on their own basic needs, they also seem to be thinking bigger and more interested in some of those dimensions of our business. So those are some of the big trends that we've seen, and mostly people just want to make sure they're getting their healthy products.
And Matt is one of those. He's in the stream and he says it's a happy day when the Thrive Market box arrives. Rachel, I want to ask you quickly too. Same question from Andrea. What's the thing you're seeing most in demand right now?
Yeah, so we're seeing it like just rising across the board, which has been very interesting. We were anticipating in the beginning seeing more comfort foods or, more ice cream being purchased, but we've really seen things kind of rise together, and nothing has really stood out as a sleeper or surprise or anything like that.
Okay, well, thank you. I think the story will keep developing. Maybe we'll check back in with you and see if people are back to ice cream soon. But it's been wonderful speaking with you both. Thank you for joining me on Business Unusual today.
Thanks, Susie.
Those were the CEO of Daily Harvest, Rachel Drori, and of Thrive Market, Nick Green, talking to us about changes in the way that we are ordering food online and cooking at home. I want to check in on the results of our poll right now. We asked something related. We wanted to know if you'd use any meal kit delivery services because of the pandemic. An overwhelming amount of you said you have not. 80% saying no. That's Minnie, Jessica, Sylvester. Some yeses from Glenn, Nadia, Malik, Sudhir, and Yvette. Some are thinking of it. Other people, a little bit on the fence. So thank you for voting in that poll. Tomorrow on Business Unusual, my colleague Caroline Fairchild will be back to have a conversation with researchers from McKinsey who have looked at the impact coronavirus is having on women. You want to join her tomorrow at noon Eastern from the LinkedIn news page here for that conversation. This has been Business Unusual. Thanks for joining me. I'm Susie Jackson.